No, not even. You don't want to shoehorn Tumblr and say it's all their fault, even though it may be. But again, I'm of the older generation, so I don't necessarily understand Tumblr, even though I am on it.
Okay.
Right.
I don't think anyone really understands Tumblr.
Yeah. I think it's the
Tumblr
eternal
is just a
enigma.
place. We just don't.
Whoa, what
we
was
just
that?
don't. We just.
Okay.
Sort of miscellaneous interests.
It's sort of a socially acceptable 4chan.
Well, that too.
And on that note, I'm actually going to introduce the flippin' episode. So, welcome to the latest episode of Arcadio. Joining me tonight, we have Marcus, Kieran, Jack,
Hello.
and Wayne.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about fandoms, leading off of Wayne's article last week and the Doctor Who and the Curse of the Fickle Fandom. So we decided to kind of look a little bit more into the topic and try to get our own kind of personal perspectives. And just before we started actually recording, like maybe 15, 20 minutes ago, we started talking about this, and none of us, well, the majority of us don't feel like we belong singularly to a show or a comic or anything like that. But Kieran, you said you'd consider yourself a Whovian and a DC head, I suppose. Is that what? You just attached head
I don't know. That tends to be how it works with fandoms, yeah.
But why would, given that there, and I'll be honest, okay, there is a lot of negativity that surrounds the idea of a fandom. It's like when I think of fandoms, generally it conjures up images of people in tribal tattoos, chucking spears at people who disagree with their opinions. From mud huts, as they dance around Steve Moffat, like an effigy of Steve Moffat burning, that's generally
slightly racist, as well as that's racism.
No, it's not really.
But this isn't so much to do with like shows and such, but you do get people who line up in queues for various games consoles and stuff with a view just to smashing them and all that carry on. I mean, you do have people who are committed to Xbox, and so therefore will smash PlayStations as a slight against Microsoft, having just paid for the damn thing.
Those type of people are idiots.
Yeah.
Oh, of course they.
Money to burn.
Yeah,
Of course they are, but don't they get covered by the term fandom? Even if there are persons who are part of fandoms who wouldn't subscribe to the same behaviour.
I don't think so, because I know plenty of internet personalities that would, people who want to be internet personalities who would smash it with no attachment to the opposition. They just want to have an internet video with loads of hits, so they're going to be a prick on the internet.
Okay, fair enough.
This general activity spreads throughout absolutely everything.
Yeah, it's just if you're on the internet, people are going to be shits about some stuff. It's just going to happen.
Even outside the internet, it applies.
Would the internet be seen as maybe the birthing place of a lot of anger and fandoms, though? It's seen as definitely the soapbox in my eyes, anyway. As somebody who, sees the internet as the place where everyone goes to give out about everything.
Oh, yeah, well, everyone wants to be an internet tough guy, They want to give out about stuff because they are right objectively about this, subjective thing.
It's also a place where you have no face.
And it's also a place where you can, connect and give your opinions, relatively quickly.
I think we basically just wrote the Cheers theme song to the internet, where everybody doesn't know your face.
Where you can get on your high horse.
Thanks, Declan. You just fucking obliterated Cheer for me.
You're welcome. Look, that's what happens in these podcasts. I ruin mostly everything, and I try not to be racist. And there we go.
Oh God.
We consider it a successful podcast. If we haven't slandered someone. I mean, the first couple of episodes were Naomi impersonating Jessica Biel, and then getting her confused with Jessica Alba, and then on a rant. So,
hey, I'm just saying, I do that with Anne Frank and Helen Keller.
Oh, good lord!
Whoa!
I mean, I can't remember which one's deaf and dumb or which one's stuck behind a bookshelf. I can't remember.
Righty.
Oh wow!
I'm not the only one. There's other people out there that do that. I'm not the only one.
Is there a fandom for?
I think the anti-fandom would have been the anti-Anne Frank, yeah. I mean, the anti-fandom definitely would have been the Nazis, I think.
Yes, okay.
There's probably the first ever fandom that were wrong, right there. Nazis.
Oh, wow.
But it's true, though.
Nobody draw correlations between Nazis and Whovians. Nobody do it. Just nobody do it. We'll
It's
try.
too late for that.
I think we'll try pull it back on track. So I think okay. From my own personal experience, I think my very first encounter with the fandom, and this predates exposure to Ireland Online, internet dial-up, beep boop beep, would have been Marvel versus DC. Growing up as a kid, it was always a case of, oh, I like Batman. Okay, actually, confession. Growing up as kids, we didn't know that Batman and Batman and Superman were from the same company. So it was like, I like Batman when he sucks. I like Superman, and it was we always thought they were two very different companies as kids. But for
I
us,
was like the opposite. I had like no idea any of them were different.
Look at
They
you.
just got pumped out of like a superhero.
I don't
factory.
see the rivalry. I don't see the rivalry between DC and Marvel.
Neither do I. Well, not I suppose not in this generation of of comic stories and movies and stuff like that. I personally don't. I think go back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I think it was a much bigger deal as to what you were reading.
Around that time,
I don't know.
Marvel and DC were doing collaboration.
I don't know if that was the case overall, though. I mean, and they've always had. See, DC and Marvel, they may want you to believe that they're kind of at each other's throats, but they're not really, because they're perfectly happy to also do their crossovers with the Justice League and the Avengers to sell just as many comics. It's the fans see, and this is probably the basis of fandom. The fans create the rivalry.
And
the fans create the rivalry. We would say, well, I like Spider-Man over Superman, or I like Captain America over Batman. The fans create those rivals. DC and Marvel don't set out.
What I noticed there, Wayne, was you saying you like a lot more Marvel characters than DC characters. I'm just saying.
Well, I actually used to be quite a big. I used to be quite a big DC fan. I was a massive DC fan for years, and I bought a lot of DC comics, and I shied away a lot from Marvel. I mean, growing up, I read a lot of X-Men back in the 90s during the Chris Claremont years, but I gravitated towards Batman and especially the Green Lantern as well. I love the Green Lantern, massive Green Lantern fan, and I've shied away from it recently with the comics because DC comics have been terrible, and I've only bought a few Marvel, and I but in regards to fandoms, though,
how up to date are you on DC?
Huh?
How up to date are you on DC? I mean, when did you stop?
When did I stop? When the new 52 started.
Scott Snyder's a great Batman writer.
Yeah.
The thing is, there's like 30 different Batman arcs at the minute. Some of them are good, some of them are god awful.
But that's always been the case. And
I don't think there's ever been as much dilution as there is at the minute, though. Going slightly off topic, I mean, like there are a lot of different Batman titles at the minute, whereas before there might have been, maybe 5 max. There's now, I think, like 10 or so.
There is
all running within the new 52.
There is something.
I only read the Scott Snyder Batmans personally, but.
Jack,
there is something interesting.
Yeah.
There's something interesting though about the fact that fandoms do seem mutually beneficial. For example, if you've got I think DC does get a bump every time a Marvel person denigrates DC because it does just get the name out there if nothing else. I mean,
all publicity is good publicity, even strippers.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Absolutely.
But if we move away, okay. I mean, okay, we can kind of agree that. Let's say Marvel and the whole Marvel DC thing. It's entirely subjective. There are people out there that are going to much prefer Batman over Spider-Man, that are going to prefer, the Avengers over the Justice League, and it's entirely up to them.
Sure.
Then I think the polar opposites are always going to be there. I only read DC, I only read Marvel, and they're going to push and pull either way. But I think the middle ground has definitely expanded a lot more. And I think going on into the likes of, I suppose for me, my next big, because again, I wouldn't consider myself a Doctor Who fan. I like Doctor Who, but I'm not a Whovian by any shape or form. But I think Harry Potter was probably when I first kind of went, holy hell, it's totally okay to obsess about something and not get ridiculed for it. Because, you had both kids and adults not just queuing to get their books for the kids, but to get them for themselves. a day in advance of the book being released, just so they could say they got the first edition print.
I'll be right back, guys. Just give me a second.
And I think the Harry Potter kind of fandom, of all the fandoms that I've come across, I don't know if there's much negativity, but I certainly haven't seen a lot of it.
I don't think there is, because it's too much of a positive story.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very positive, even though there's a lot of darkness in it. I think Harry Potter is a very positive story, and I think that it's so welcomed by anyone that's a fan of it, that I don't think that there is much negativity, unless you go deep into the slash fiction era, segment. But I mean, not that I wouldn't have a clue. But I will say this: I'm 36 years of age. Myself and my wife yesterday booked our tickets for the Harry Potter experience in England.
Fantastic.
For the new year. We're going. So I mean.
Yeah, I think one of the big messages of Harry Potter is non-exclusionary. So you have to go really deep down the shitter rabbit hole in Harry Potter, to find people that actually would be exclusionary about it. Because I have seen
Harry Potter.
Well, there are people who dislike. There are people who dislike it. By and large, they don't. By and large, they don't usually just make a noise about it. They say, "Oh, I'm not really into it," and they'll just go about their business. There's usually not an awful lot of incendiary stuff around it.
So
yeah. I've actually seen a couple of threads online where someone just called someone out, and then the shitter who was calling out someone else got absolutely tumulted for missing the fucking point completely. So that was pretty interesting. But I like those sort of things.
Why then? Okay, because okay. You can shoot me here for this, but I would consider Doctor Who to have a fairly positive message.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are some seriously, and obviously Doctor Who goes. Well, I don't necessarily think it goes darker than Harry Potter, but it's a lot more blasé about being a darker medium or having darker metaphors and stuff like that. But for the most part, it carries a very positive message. But the Whovian fandom is, for lack of a better word, fucked up.
It's weird, yeah. It is a weird thing. I mean, I've been a Doctor Who fan since I was 11 years of age. So you're talking 1989.
I was 3.
And it's this is back with Classic Who, just before the 7th Doctor went off the air. And I remember growing up being a Doctor Who fan, even when it wasn't on TV and there was the books and there was comics and everything available as fans. None of that existed. And again, this is why I laid it solely at the feet of the internet being the soapbox of this generation of fans, basically latching on to when they became fans on the back of the show returning in 2004, and seeing that as the golden shining fucking era of something, and anything that changes from that era, even though the fundamental message in the middle of Doctor Who is one of change, anything that's different from what Russell T Davies did, they hate.
I'd agree with you up to a point, but there is
I love the Classic Who personally.
As in,
and I
don't think I've seen a single episode
on
of
day
Who
2.
Okay.
I jumped on when Eccleston came on.
Yeah. But I just want to come back to Wayne's point, if that's cool. I think there is something in that. Up to a point, there are people who do have very, strong views about when Eccleston came back and took the mantle, as it were. But I think another part of it is that the way that you look at the way Stephen Moffat gets treated in the press up to a point. I mean, it does almost seem like there's a pretext. People want something to be angry at, so they picked him more or less arbitrarily. And I'll accept. I've got problems with Stephen Moffat up to a point, but the idea that you just malign him arbitrarily is it's fucked up. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, it's like we were saying there before we started recording. It's or at least like I was saying, Stephen Moffat has written most of the best episodes, in my opinion, of the new reimagining of Doctor Who. But I don't personally think he's a very good showrunner.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely written my top 10 favorite episodes of Who. He's probably written 9 of them. But since he took over as a showrunner from Matt Smith, I found myself getting just completely exasperated with the overarching plots for each season.
Yeah.
With the exception of this current one, I thought this current one was pretty good.
Yeah, I like its simplistic values. It didn't make it too complicated, and it just right.
Do you ever feel like the dumbest
Especially with the master returning.
Do you ever feel like the dumbest person in the room? Because when Doctor Who or a Harry Potter movie or whatever, Lord of the Rings comes on, I generally just switch off. I'm not I'm being honest, and I'm not sitting there going, Jesus Christ, Moffat's the best writer I've ever seen. I'm sitting there going, this is either a good episode of Doctor Who or a bad episode of Doctor Who, and I'm not laying it at the feet of Moffat. I'm not laying it at the feet of Capaldi. You know what I mean? I'm sitting there going, it was either a good episode or it was a shit episode. I'm not going, well, that's all Moffat's fault. Davies would have written a way better episode.
Well,
Declan, do you remember we were here in my house watching The Robots of Sherwood?
Oh, God, that was an awful episode.
Mark Gatiss wrote that episode.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I don't give a shit who wrote it, like you know what I mean? To me,
but Mark Gatiss is, the funniest thing is, though, when people lambast Moffat and say, we don't want him anymore, bring in Mark Gatiss as the showrunner. And Mark Gatiss is a massive Doctor Who fan, has huge history with the show. He was responsible for the fantastic Adventures Through Space and Time drama that BBC produced last year. Gatiss knows his stuff.
He was in an episode, wasn't he?
The problem is, he was in a Russell T Davies episode as Lazarus, Dr. Lazarus, and
I liked that episode.
Yeah, no, that was a fine episode. It was grand. The problem is that I can't pinpoint exactly what the issue is that people have with Stephen Moffat. They have a lot of different problems with him as a showrunner, and it's like Marcus said. I think they're just, they're as a showrunner, he may not be the best showrunner in the world. He approaches things differently to Russell T Davies, which I think is great. I think that's what the show needed. It did need to have that change because Russell T Davies was starting to get really tired towards the end of his run. I think Moffat is getting to that point as well. More than likely, we'll see a changeover maybe at the end of next season, or maybe halfway through next season, or maybe even before the season starts. And then you'll see as soon as Moffat leaves, though, you're going to have so many people on the internet. It's going to be like fucking New Year's. They're going to be throwing parties and people running through the streets naked, and it's just fucking insane. And I just don't get it. I honestly don't get it. I don't understand how people can level so much hate at one particular person and I understand he's the showrunner. I can understand it to say, right, well, he's responsible for a lot of it, but he's a full team of writers, full team of directors, a very limited budget by the BBC. His budget is a lot smaller than what it was when Russell T Davies was starting the show again, a lot smaller. And they've managed to...
I thought it had skyrocketed.
No. They had their budget completely cropped. When it hit the 4 specials that Tennant did, that was a season. That was meant to be a season. And they chopped the budget. So that was only made into 4 specials. There was a lot of other problems as well, and a lot of other reasons why that happened. But that was Russell T Davies coming to the end of what he was meant to be doing. But yeah, I mean, as a fandom, though, if we get back on point in regards to the fandoms, I think if you... The showrunners, Moffat, the show themselves, the writers, the cast, they're oblivious. They don't give a shit about the way the negative reaction is coming out of the fandom. They'll look at it and they go, okay. They'll still make the show because the ratings are still there. Because the fandom, the people that are pissing and moaning every week are still going, right, Doctor Who is on, great, tune in. And they'll watch it. And as soon as they finish watching it, they'll get on the internet and they'll fucking moan about it.
The internet needs to know my opinion.
Exactly. I mean, it just baffles me. I mean, I don't get it. As a fan who said this before on other podcasts, I lay the blame for giving fandoms a voice. Not so much at their feet, but at what they caused. Joss Whedon has a lot to answer for.
Oh, okay.
Because basically, I'm a huge browncoat.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the whole fandom outcry of Firefly started a lot when it comes to fandoms moaning about things.
That was before my time.
Yeah,
that's what.
I hopped on the Serenity bandwagon. I think someone's need to pop in their headphones because we're getting feedback. Like I was saying, I popped on the Serenity bandwagon fairly late, and I didn't get the whole I mean, I was certain by people giving out that it was cancelled, that it wasn't coming back. Death to Fox. All this kind of malarkey, and I didn't get it. And then I went home. I had the full season to watched it all, and instantly, found myself kind of, this is it. This is all we're getting. What the hell? This is like the worst decision they could have possibly ever made, and. Yeah. And that you could go online and you could kind of go, well, at least I'm not the, and if I wasn't the only one, which I think a lot of the brown coats kind of felt, if I'm not the only person who watched the show, who loved the show, then why did they cancel it? Because there seems to be not just thousands of us or hundreds of thousands, there seems to be millions of us who watched Firefly and absolutely fell in love with it, and then we get a movie, and the movie for a lot of people, it's a very divisive issue or point in the Firefly universe. A lot of people kind of felt, this is all we're getting? It's like a very condensed episode of Firefly whittled into 90 minutes or 120 minutes, whatever it is. And then others kind of saying, look, there's this movie, we've gone to see the movie, we've bought the movie, we've bought the merch, can we get the show back? And they're still hammering on about it. They're still, it's still not over. This Bring Back Firefly has not ended. And you've had the cast say that they've all, they're constantly asked at conventions, and not just Firefly conventions, but be it Comic-Con, MegaCon, DragonCon, wherever Nathan Fillion or Gina Torres, Alan Tudyk, Sean Maher, any of them, wherever any of them go, you're guaranteed it's going to be a question asked by a fan in the audience.
But isn't that with any?
See, with Firefly, it's this, I don't know.
Firefly ended prematurely, whereas Harry Potter got to finish.
Harry Potter
Doctor
got
Who's
to finish.
Still going.
Yeah, it got to finish. It's not a case of
what the mean. Again, with the
speaking
fandoms,
of cancelled fandoms, actually,
as far as fandoms are concerned, though, right? Another show that ended prematurely, and the fandom actually managed to bring it back, was Jericho. Jericho was a show that ended prematurely, and the fans sent boxes upon boxes of peanuts to the showrunners and to the studio, and they brought it back for another season.
Are peanuts a thing in Jericho?
Peanuts. I think it was either packing peanuts or real peanuts. But again, it shows that fandoms seem to think, because of the Firefly thing, fandoms have this thing where they go, right, as an army, we can get something done. If our voice is loud enough, we can be heard and people will pay attention to us. And I think that slowly but surely started to fucking plant a seed.
The thing is about that, particularly with things like Firefly and such, I mean, it was cut short prematurely, and so there was, I think at least at the beginning, there was a feeling that they were on the side of people like Joss Whedon and people who were in the cast, but the problem with that is that the cast moved on, Whedon moved on to different things, and they essentially haven't. I mean, I think they're people like this are no doubt in their own mind that what they're doing is justifiable and right, and that they are on the side of the people who made their show, but I think it's really a question of proportion, and which has long since become a distant, memory in the rearview mirror with this particular example.
But but this principle could also be applied to a lot of people who argue that Moffat's run in Doctor Who, compared to say Classic Who or Russell T Davies' run in Doctor Who, is not the way they remember it.
Yeah,
they want it to be changed, and then when it's changed, they go, "Fuck it, it's not the same as it was. Change it back."
Yeah.
And it's that fickle idea behind fandom that it is a kind of case of, I think it's a great show, we can go anywhere, it can be anything. Oh look, the Master's now a woman. Fuck that noise, that's changed, that's wrong, fuck you.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. That was one of my first reactions. I mean, like, I read I am following, I do follow Doctor Who. The only season of Doctor Who I watched, on a weekly basis, up to date weekly basis was Donna, the Donna arc.
Okay.
Everything else I watched after everybody else, like to the point that Ryan and Naomi refused to come to my house during Doctor Who season, because they'll watch, because we have TV and they can watch Doctor Who, but I'll be in the kitchen and I'll be kind of going, oh, what's that? Huh? huh, what's he doing there, Ryan? What's that got to do with that, Ryan? And
Oh no.
making dinner, but
Declan, I would have killed you.
You know, I asked questions. Like,
When I consider myself,
did you have any idea how hard I had to sit there, Wayne, during like the episode we watched? And I was going, really want to ask an annoying question, but I know Ryan doesn't like that, and it's Wayne's house, so I'll shut up. And
My wife doesn't ask me questions during Doctor Who. She sit here and we watch Doctor Who, and she waits till it's over, and she has a list in her head what to ask me because she's afraid. Like, even though I tell her to ask me questions because it's live, we can pause TV here. We have the technology, and I'm saying if you have any questions, just ask.
We can make it better. We have the technology.
Well, yeah, and that's the other side of the fandom. I'm more than happy to talk to Doctor Who, but to anyone who wants to get into the show. You know, that's the other side of fandom. You meet the fans that are like,
walking
this is great, come join us.
That's it. I mean, I suppose we should talk about the positive elements of a fandom, because there are some amazing aspects to fandoms that are just, and I'm not just talking about, you know, the artwork, which in most cases, that's it, the non-shipping, and shipping is something we have to talk about. The fans who put their spin on a character's appearance or a particular scenario, or you know, be it a specific planet in Doctor Who, or a race that they draw or they mold or they cosplay. Like, the creative aspect of the fandom is something. The notion of the fandom is something that I really like, and I could spend hours just scrolling through pictures of people sharing their love for, be it Doctor Who or Buffy or Firefly or Star Trek or Star Wars, Harry Potter, X-Men, Spider-Woman, whatever it is,
and the rest.
It's just like, it's fantastic. I absolutely love that. And like, there's a really good documentary about Harry Potter. And it follows the idea of creating a new genre of rock called wizard rock. And I know that's in Harry Potter. You know, there's a Harry Potter wizard rock band. And then these, I think they're Canadian. They're either US or Canadian, but they create a Harry Potter band. They wear the Hogwarts uniforms. They have a band, and they write songs about Hogwarts and the world of Harry Potter.
There's a band of English YouTubers who have a band called Chameleon Circuit, who do something called Who Rock.
That's awesome.
That's just one example. Yeah, but there's so many amazing positive sides to fandoms. I mean, I personally don't know the negative side of fandoms because I don't spend that much time on Tumblr. I don't go through forums. I only know it as something extremely friendly.
Okay, so do you mean that you've encountered it in just an interpersonal level? It's never been an online thing?
Oh no, it's been an online thing. I mean, I follow things on Facebook and stuff, but I don't really use Tumblr. I don't go very, very deep. I don't find...
You're not looking for that, you know what I mean? You're not there to kind of throw your weight into the fandom and go, this is what I think and this is why I'm right and everybody else is wrong. And you're not... I suppose, I
enjoy...
No, go on.
I enjoy just having discussion about it.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, there's a level at which we're all entitled to have the discussion. We're all entitled to air our opinion, and you know what we think a certain episode might have meant, or how it affects a timeline or a character's development, be it a TV show, a book, a movie, whatever, a video game. But at the end of the day, like, no one... Firstly, all of this is entirely subjective. I know, for instance, Wayne, you don't like the end of... I'm probably getting the title of the episode wrong, but the Doctor and his children or something like that? That saga, the Donna... Dr. Donna.
Yeah.
You don't like...
Yeah, I hate that.
No.
And the end of that, that's...
Yeah, no, but I remember you saying that, or posting it somewhere, like, you know, on Facebook or wherever. I remember going, well, fuck you, Wayne.
But I love Donna.
No, here's the thing. I only went back and watched it a while ago and went, oh my god, Wayne was fucking right.
Yeah.
No, because it's so subjective how an episode makes you feel. or how a book or a chapter makes you feel, or how a CD makes you feel. I think a lot of people aren't able to disassociate their own perception or their own idea of what the book meant or the character meant or what the writer's intentions were, and from how realize or grasp that other people may feel differently. So they feel so strongly about it that they're just unwilling to let any kind of viewpoint in case it skews their personal take or their personal experience with it. And that's the kind of side of the fandom that I take issue with. That it's like, well, it's my TV show, it's my video game, it's my character. Therefore, you don't get it, you don't understand, you're not worth watching. You're not worthy of the TV show. That's the aspect of the fandom that I really have an issue with. I went on a rant.
The obsessive fan side of it is weird, all right. I don't understand that myself, because I've always been the type of person that if somebody likes something and you like it, you have something in common rather than something that will drive you apart. I think that, and like I say at the conventions, that people turn up and they're like, oh, you're a fan of this and you're a fan of this, and these are complete strangers I've never met before that turn up and one person's in cosplay and the other person's in cosplay and it's from the same fandom, and they're like, yeah, we're buddies now because we both like the same stuff. And that's great, that's fantastic. But then like, I mean, you see people who argue with complete strangers about stuff that really, in the grand scheme of things, shouldn't really affect your life that heavily. And they actually, I've seen one come to fisticuffs once, actually.
Bloody hell.
Awesome.
Argument, which is insane. It just baffles me on a level of lack of intelligence and being able to pull yourself away from something to be able to say, well, what the hell am I beating this person for? So what if they don't think Dean and Castiel belong together? But I just think that I need to punch them in the face. It's just,
whenever I see that side of fandom raise its head, I just keep thinking of League of Gentlemen. It's like, this is a local fandom for local people.
Yes, absolutely. We'll have none of your acceptance, yeah?
Like, I do like sort of, I get some of like the objective fandom thing myself, and like whenever I realize myself I'm doing it, like I always hate it, but like I'm a big I recently got into like Night Vale in the past like 2 years, and one thing that really annoys me is whenever I see art of Cecil Baldwin online, or not Cecil Baldwin, of Cecil the host online. It's just because, yeah, thanks. Sorry, I keep mixing up his like second name, but anyway, Cecil, like the host. I always get kind of annoyed when I see art of him online, because I always think one of the things about Cecil is that we don't really know what he looks like. He's just he's a voice.
Yeah.
But I mean,
yeah. So that's like one of the things like.
But the thing that disturbs me more about the Night Vale thing, and even though you explained it before the show, is the
other side of the arrow.
I just yeah. The Cecil and Carlos stuff.
Since
okay,
you seem to be very eager to bring up this side of the fandom. So I mean, we have it has to be addressed. There is a weirder, Okay, I mean, I don't want to say weird. Weird makes it sound bad.
Hold on. I'm wearing too many pants for this next part of the conversation.
There's a more adult side to fandoms. And you just Google My Little Pony with safe search off.
Oh God, no, my
you know what I mean? You're not going doing that, Jack, right?
No. Just awful images.
My eyes.
So there is, and I mean, does anybody?
It's not particularly a bad.
Does anybody
thing,
want to interject here?
Well, no, I mean,
no. You keep going.
I mean, is it a case of right?
You're in the hole now. Dig your way out.
This is the reason why Google Chrome has a safe search for Tumblr installed, or an add-in you can get for it. Because, and thanks to Naomi for introducing me to that thing, because I was getting into the habit of going onto Tumblr and work, and it'd be all right for a couple of posts, and then you'd find something that would really get you handed your P45 quicker than you could say P45. But I find that in particular, there's a couple of fandoms that have a certain side to them that the fans make it their own, and then blow it up to all proportions that are just fucking insane. The Bronies, I'd say, would be one of them. Supernatural fandom is famous for it. Welcome to Night Vale is famous for to a certain degree. But then, basically, anything that makes something that over-sexualizes something. Huh?
I just think it's
Welcome to Night
hilarious.
Vale actually does like Carlos and Cecil actually are in a relationship in Welcome to Night Vale.
Well, no, they are, but that's perfectly fine. It's perfectly healthy on the show. They're in a relationship together, but there is fandoms like Kieran was saying, and I don't know, as Kieran was saying before we started recording, he questioned like why is there loads of tentacles involved, and I was going to say, well, part of it's Lovecraftian in a way. It's a lot of eldritch gods type stuff, so that's why the tentacles are there. But some fans in their artistic representations of the couple involve the tentacles in a completely different way that would make the biggest Japanese businessman blush.
Yeah. I suppose
Wayne,
that-
to explain that though, by the way.
I suppose it's not a bad thing to do necessarily. I mean, it's just a different way to enjoy the fandom, even if it does. I don't want to say bears false witness because that sounds really sort of precious, but I suppose it's just a different way of doing something in your, doing your own thing
I
with
think
what you're involved with.
I do think it's a nice addition to the fandom, and this fan art and fan fictions do add extra depth and layers to fandoms.
Mm.
I always love reading through fanfics and just like going away like, oh dude,
Mm.
I just think it's hilarious, especially like some Dan and Phil fanfics, which is also another thing. Would you count like YouTubers and fans for YouTubers as fandoms?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, anybody that goes to the trouble to set up a YouTube channel and garner a couple of 100,000 likes or subscribers or whatever, they have to be kind of invested into the subject. Like Potter Puppet Pals, the Harry Potter puppet YouTubers. I'm pretty sure they like Harry Potter if they're gonna make Harry Potter puppets and make. Now, it's not necessarily true to the material because, I mean, in one episode they find a pipe bomb that Voldemort planted.
Well, in fairness, come on, you did have Seamus. Seamus did blow up a lot of shit in
He did.
Hogwarts.
That's
He
true.
did,
very
not
true.
necessarily with a pipe bomb.
So that would have been way too racist for the Irishman to be blowing up shit.
There's a line.
And also, he'd have been blowing up shit in Scotland, and you're going to say, I don't think the Scots and the Irish have ever had that sort of a, friction in recent past.
That's true.
Well, they never had that
That's
friction.
true, I think
They appreciated explosions together in the same way.
Yeah.
You know, as long as the English were getting blown up, they didn't give a shit.
Well, isn't that the old
Well,
Billy? Isn't that the Billy Connolly joke? I mean, the Scots were
Yeah.
an Irish tribe. A kind of a mentally ill Irish
Oh,
tribe.
Jesus.
Says, "Come on, lads, I know an even rainier place."
Oh.
I think we may have found my fandom.
Billy Connolly.
I do adore that man.
So we've touched on fan fiction. We've touched on the
Fan art?
positive side of fandoms. Is there anything like has the line been crossed? Like, do you feel that there's a line, from kind of what makes you part of a fandom? Like, is it?
There was a line.
There was a line in this podcast, and it crossed when Wayne referenced Helen Keller and Anne Frank.
I think 2 seconds into the intro we went over that line.
Yeah, that was like.
But yeah, is there like when do you associate someone as a Whovian and not just someone who watches Doctor Who? Like, are you a Whovian?
I tell you this now.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Kieran.
I was just saying, whenever they decide they like the show enough to go and have a title for it, you don't have to know every bit of trivia. I mean, that's what being a fandom is supposed to be. So you can learn more about the show, share what you think you know and what you don't know. You share theories. That's what fandom should be.
Well, I don't consider myself part of any fandom, but I'm a big enough Doctor Who fan that I have a podcast completely dedicated to Doctor Who.
You do. Do you want to plug it?
Right? But no, it's not that I need to plug it. It's just that I don't think I'm part of any particular fandom. I just know that I'm a fan of that particular show in my own special way. But I don't, and it's not that I don't want to batch myself in with people. I fucking hate the term Whovian. I think it's so fucking 2010. Like somebody made it up just to be able to label something. I think myself as a Doctor Who fan. I've been a Doctor Who fan since I was 11. I will always be a Doctor Who fan. But as soon as I put myself in, maybe it's my own personal snobbery, but as soon as I put myself into a fandom, I throw myself in with these ignorant fucktards who feel they need to argue and piss and moan about every single thing that they personally find disagreeable about a show.
Do you think in order to be part of a fandom, you have to self-identify as part of a fandom? So you can be a fan? No. Oh, okay.
No, I do.
I think
I don't think so.
Part of a fandom, you do need to like self-identify to a degree. I mean, because like I suppose going back to that article that Declan wrote a couple of weeks ago on like geek culture, it's just like, you know, you can like everybody plays video games nowadays, but not everyone considers themselves a gamer. But I personally would consider myself a gamer, even though I do a lot of other shit. I wouldn't consider myself a big reader or in the Doctor Who fandom or in the Harry Potter fandom. But I'm fucking definitely a gamer. I am definitely a gamer, even though for the past 2 months I've been reading more comics and playing games.
Like, I don't consider being a gamer being part of a fandom.
No, not necessarily. I suppose,
I think,
but it's
yeah,
just like the point of like labeling yourself and self-identifying.
Yeah, no, there is.
It's a gamer's a broad term.
It has fandom elements.
Well, no, I think games and gaming characters have fandoms, but as a hobby, that's what it is. Yeah. It's a hobby. So a gamer is a hobbyist, not necessarily a member of a fandom as such. Like you can be a member of the, you can be a Halo fan and be completely obsessed with Master Chief or that whole the rings or whatever. Like you can be completely obsessed with that. But then there are people like I play Halo. I absolutely love Halo. But I wouldn't consider myself a diehard sell my own mother for the Master Chief collection kind of fan. I mean,
I would definitely sell your mother.
You can
for
sell
the
my
Master
mother
Chief collection.
for the Master Chief. That's fine. Don't worry about it. I mean,
solicitation of Mrs. Duty for
well, no, I was just about to follow that up with she'd probably kick the shit out of you if you came near her. But I mean, so I should stipulate you can try sell my mother for the Master Chief collection.
And she lives in a rural area, so she'll bury you where no one will find you.
No, she won't. She's too lazy. She's not going to do that. She'll let the dogs eat you.
Bitch, I'm Donegal. I'm as rural as it gets.
I'm West Limerick, and my mother's even more west than that. Like, so yeah, it's not just rural, but we're also scumbags.
Do you self-identify as a scumbag?
Is that what the love-hate fans?
Oh wow.
Maybe I need to realise that myself personally, I actually am a member of a fandom, but I'm just too up my own hole to give a shit.
That's how fandom you are.
I walk around with a Fourth Doctor scarf in this cold, shitty weather. I mean, I don't have any Doctor Who tattoos yet, but I mean, there's probably going to be a day where I will. So yeah, I probably do belong to the fandom. I just don't want to associate myself with a bunch of whiny, griping bastards that just feel the need to moan about everything.
Well, that's a thing. I completely sympathise with you on that note, because I almost feel reluctant occasionally to air my reservations about Stephen Moffat, because I don't want to get linked in with other people who are just on his ass seemingly for its own sake.
Yeah. I mean, I did get attacked on Tumblr by one person after that article for the Arcade was published about my use of the term gender. Okay. And they went on about like cis privileges and all that type of thing, and saying that I used the term gender incorrectly, and it's not about gender, blah, blah, blah. And then Moffat himself went into the explanation of why he chose to change the gender of the Master to a woman, yada, yada, yada. And the handle of the person who attacked me on the Arcade, now I diffused the situation by being extremely nice to them and asking them to explain the use of the term gender, and please, educate my dumb, cis, white, privileged brain that I don't understand any of that shit. And they shut down completely and apologised. But their handle was "Please fire Moffat."
Oh, good lord!
Oh God Almighty! It's so sad.
Taking some bias.
Yeah. That is sad. I mean, I'll put my cards on the table. My reservations about Stephen Moffat, such as they are, is that he operates at his best when everything is going wrong and everyone's in jeopardy. So it's very difficult for him to work, I think, to small scale. So, for example, I mean, if you take an episode like Midnight, which was on a moon in a very enclosed space, Tennant's Doctor is in this sort of moon shuttle, and outside there is a creature that's essentially starts doing imitations of all the people who are inside. Now, that's a very small scale. It's very atmospheric, and I don't think that is a bow that necessarily that's a string to Stephen Moffat's bow. I don't think he can work in that way. But that's a very minor criticism, and I don't want to get lumped in with other people who seem to think that he has somehow poisoned the well. Because I don't. I think he's very good at what he does. It's just that he can't do it all. And it would be stupid to presuppose that he could.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Moffat actually has done well with other things within the story of like the small frame, like Blink being the quintessential Moffat story that everyone recommends to anyone who wants to get in there. But Russell T wrote Midnight and wrote it fantastically, and it is one of the best ones out there. It's a fantastic horror episode. But no, you're right. Moffat does always seem to want to dial up the jeopardy and then having to wrap it up all neatly at the end of it. I did have issue with that with some of his stories, that it was this handy get out of jail free clause that all of a sudden appeared, and that was very much obvious in the current finale. I think in parts of it as well. Overall, it was fantastic, but there were elements of it that was kind of like, oh, okay, that was kind of easy. So, yeah. So I mean, yeah, that is true. I mean, I'm not by any means. I don't say Moffat is the be all and end all of Doctor Who. He isn't.
Of course.
And I am. I'm not that I'm eager for a new showrunner, but I'm looking forward to when there is a new showrunner to maybe take the show in a different direction, because like I said at the start, that's what the show is about. It's about change, and that's
absolutely
that's what, as a Doctor Who fan myself personally, I relish about the show, and that's why it keeps me coming back to it, because it will always constantly change. And I think that's why
what keeps bringing in.
Go on, Kieran.
No, I'm just saying that's why new fans are always coming in every single season, because there's always something new every season.
Totally.
There's new elements that always come to the table. Like this year, Capaldi's big change. He isn't the bouncy, lovable character that we've known for the past two incarnations.
Yeah.
He's old and cantankerous.
He's something completely new. And it's what the show is about.
That's actually...
And it's how it's lasted so long.
That kind of reminds me, I mean, there was this huge speculation, as there is every regeneration, the Doctor's going to be a woman, the Doctor's going to be black. Why? No, he's not. That's disgusting. Why then? Right? Because there's a lot of people saying, the Doctor should be a woman. It would be great to see a female, a female Time Lord. That's blah 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 blah. Take the reins, fly the TARDIS, etc. etc. Why then was there such a furore over the Master being a woman?
That's the point. That's the fandom right there. That sums up what the problem with the fandom is, that they scream for change, they scream for this and they scream for that, and when certain parts of it or in some way it happens, they go, "Fuck this! It's changed! No!"
It didn't change the way they wanted it to. Essentially,
exactly. It just baffles. It baffles me, because I've been with Doctor Who for such a long time, and it baffles me to see when they get what they want in a certain way, because obviously it's not a female Doctor, but that was a litmus test for the female Doctor. That's what that was.
Well, they've gone and blown that then.
Literally. But there was also the side of the fandom that fucking loved it.
Oh yeah, I think I must.
It's the same with every fandom. For example, right, the Battlestar Galactica. Ronald D. Moore's reboot of Battlestar Galactica. They made Starbuck a woman. Now, none of you guys will probably remember the original Battlestar Galactica from the 80s.
No, I confess I don't.
I've watched some of it just because of the outcry.
I've never seen
against,
any.
The original Starbuck was played by Faceman from the A-Team. Benedict, or Bennett, what's his name?
That dude.
Yeah, but he played the original Starbuck, and then when it was announced that they were making Starbuck a woman, a lot of people lost their shit. And then they saw the show.
He himself was absolutely fucking so insulted about it. He was so insulted about it himself.
And then he saw it.
I thought, is he not still to this day pretty annoyed that his character was changed to a woman because of sexual tension? He's incredibly homophobic from what I'm reading.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they've both met at conventions.
Yeah.
And they seem perfectly okay with each other. he perfectly
Maybe it's changed since
There is
then.
the whole Starbuck with Starbuck in a Starbucks.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
I don't know if,
Yeah.
if you guys have seen that. This
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I
famous
have
image of the
at
two of
some
them
point.
sharing a Starbucks in a Starbucks. And
It would be nice to see, somebody eat their words like
I'm
that.
sorry, I think she was better.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Well, I mean, everything about the new Battlestar Galactica was better than the old Battlestar, because the old Battlestar Galactica was literally just the cheesiest Star Wars cash-in ever.
For what it was, and that's pretty much what it was. It was good. Like
Yeah.
I remember watching it I had no bloody clue what the hell was going on as a kid. And even watching the newer Battlestar Galactica, I still had no clue what was going on. Going, yes, I get this. I'm intelligent, sophisticated. I get this. God, yeah, got it. Spaceship robots. I just like I do remember the whole the uproar that a woman had been cast to play Starbuck, this testosterone fueled fighter pilot, and then she 2 episodes in, she's drinking and fighting and cussing, and everyone's like, yay,
Smoking
and smoking cigars.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
Fighting round the world.
It was the biggest
Why
U-turn.
wasn't
Why was
this
what?
level of uproar not featured on like Elementary when Watson was announced to be a
It
woman?
was Lucy Liu.
It just wasn't there.
Who watches
Yeah.
Elementary?
Other,
afraid I don't.
Kieran is like 100% of
Why
the
I'm
viewer
the only
population.
fandom.
That's literally like, why watch Elementary when you have
Shed slow
Sherlock?
tear.
Sherlock is a lot
Although,
better.
sure, are they?
Yeah.
Sure,
You might-
are they?
Well, I do prefer the Moriarty arc in Elementary.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Again,
Hey,
there's
no one
well,
knows
there's
about
the
it.
rule there. Moriarty in Elementary is a woman.
Yeah,
Played
I
by
know,
Natalie Dormer.
and it's absolutely terrific.
And I would like to
I
point
think
out,
the Moriarty arc is done so
I
much
don't
better.
actually like Sherlock at all. That show, and the fandom actually. I can stick Whovians, I can stick Potterheads. There's just some I can I can actually stick the supernatural fandom as well, because there's a part of me that acts like the supernatural fandom every now and again, and I have a bit of respect for that. But the Sherlock fandom is just terrifying.
What?
From
Tell me more. I've not
from
heard of this. Tell me more.
photoshopping Benedict Cumberbatch's face onto literally everything, to
That.
like
Oh.
just the Sherlock and Watson are gay, yay, they're gay characters on mainstream TV, yay. It's just they're not gay. John Watson's not gay. He's married to a woman that he's expressed sexual interest in women.
So was Elton John.
So was my cousin. It doesn't make a fucking difference. But when a character, when a fictional character is being, and that's we have to look at here. They're fictional characters, and regardless to as much depth as we throw into it, they're still very much two-dimensional characters. There's only so much you can whack into it before you have to leave the rest of it up to the imagination of the fans. John Watson, and I'm saying this right now, John Watson and Sherlock Holmes in the BBC Sherlock show are not gay for each other. Get the fuck over it. Leave it the fuck alone. Stop exploiting the sexuality. They're not gay. I don't care.
You're going to get a very angry email with very poor grammar sometime in the next
It's from
days.
Marcus.
Such poor grammar.
No,
And the arcade loses 1 million readers.
we did. That'd be the day. You have to have 1 million to get 1 million.
Well, Declan, that's the next article, right? To follow up my Doctor Who and the fickle fandom, you should do the Sherlock not gay article
The thing is,
that disproves everything and point it out. Watch the show.
oh, do I have to? I have watched the first 2 seasons of Sherlock. Because Sherlock didn't fancy Watson, he clearly fancied Moriarty. And that was clearly sexual tension between both of them. What?
Yeah.
Just because it's 2 lads who hate each other and get all up in their face does not mean they're gay for each other. Have you seen The Wire? It just makes me so angry. And that
I don't know, like,
sorry, that
for some reason, like, you
that
just
boils into
Go.
supernatural
Go.
fandom, and the whole this character is now bisexual and that character was bisexual, but outside of this, in my fan fiction, they're both actually gay for each other, and you know, and this is Demon Sam. Like, there are people writing fan fiction about the two of them having a sexual relationship, and clearly forgetting that there's this thing called incest, and it's.
Oh no, I think they're actually relying on the thing that's called incest. I think that's the point. That some of it gets to that level. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's perverse. That's where I would very much, and it's the same. I mean, you know, everybody has their own kicks and everybody fetishizes, and you know, each to their own. But this goes back to that joke we made earlier on about the My Little Pony Google Safe search off. Like, there's a bloody line and there's a place for that. Like, and I do take personal grievance to that side of things. And there's a guy I remember reading an article about. I don't know, is it Twilight Sparkle, or I don't watch My Little Pony, so there's probably brownies who are freaking out that I don't know the name of the pony, but I think it's Twilight Sparkle. He married her. Like, you know, he married this character, and he started harassing DeviantArt users who were drawing the character, and taking it one step further then, and harassing those who were drawing it in a sexual nature. Now, you're not going to stop people from sexualizing cartoons. I mean, it looks like there's yaoi hentai, but they're obviously drawn for that purpose. My Little Pony, The Simpsons, Family Guy, it's all out there. You know, there's. I'm getting a little off topic.
If we could just drag it back to
that. Okay. Yeah, no, it's just for me.
No.
There is a line that there are within each fandoms there are very much there's a line that once crossed, and it always gets crossed. I've never not seen it get crossed. I've always felt it leaves a really sour taste to the actual. But be it, I mean, I've seen it in Harry Potter. I've seen it in you've seen it in everything, guys. And I think it takes away from what makes, because I mean, despite all of what Harry Potter is, you know, the dark themes in Harry Potter, it's still something innocent. It's still something that a 6-year-old picks up and falls head over heels in. And for me, then there's something that's been taken away when I see stuff like that. That it just kind of like you've just taken something absolutely amazing and innocent and beautiful, and you've done that. Great.
But what's happened with
it applies to everything.
What happens with that sort of stuff, though, is they take something that's perhaps in some cases implicit and they make it explicit, essentially for themselves, which is a problem if you like it at an arm's glance. I mean, to bring it back to Watson, Sherlock, I mean, there is this whole thing about how people talk about them as being, you know, gay for each other in some way. And what that's essentially based on is the fact that these two have an association which is really like an old married couple without them actually being an old married couple. But I think that's really the problem. There is, I suppose, a line, or there is perhaps, you know, a strain in some fandoms where people want to take something that has, you know, a charm for its being, you know, implicit, or charm that it resembles something else, and then just completely run with it, often to a ridiculous ad absurdum sort of length, which is, you know, fine if you're into that sort of thing, but it can, you know, get the better of you if that's, you know, if that's not your idea of a good time. And
people and fans look for a whoa factor, you know?
Yeah, sure.
It's just what they look for. It's why these things exist. It's why they're so popular. It's just because people look at that stuff. They enjoy reading it and be sort of grossed out by it to an extent, or getting off to it.
Yeah. That's
Are you
it.
ever aware that we're like the new generation of racists? I mean, like 100 years ago, it was like actual racism, homophobia, and now it's like we hate bronies and we don't like, fan fiction writers and all this stuff. It's like, are we the new racists? Are we like going to be like
No,
looked
but
back on in 50 years as like the worst
definitely-
people?
I think
that
we
ever
should
lived?
just move to a cave. I think we should just move to a cave with good internet.
I think there's definitely a problem. I mean, as I don't know anything about this My Little Pony Friendship is Magic stuff. I don't know anything about it, but I personally, as a grown person, think there is a general issue with a guy in his 20s to 30s latching on to something that is essentially aimed at younger girls, regardless of whatever way you want to dress it up with the way there's been documented out there how it helps them get through things. That's fine. There's plenty of stuff in the world to help an individual get through hard times in their life. I find it's not even strange is not the right word. I just find it unnecessary that somebody in their 20s and 30s, especially a guy, needs to latch on to something that is essentially pointed at young pre-adolescent girls. And I think when they
everyone
take
to their
that,
own, yeah.
huh?
Everyone to their own, yeah.
That's
Yeah, I mean,
that's
like,
perfectly
hardcore
fine. It's perfectly
heroin
okay.
addiction
But the
is,
point
like,
is, if
unnecessary.
they take it and try and sexualize it in some way, that's the wrong.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
no.
that's
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
because it's not commensurate. I mean, it's a kid's thing. The idea that you then sexualize it seems phenomenally out of place. Completely.
it's okay with shows like Family Guy and adult comedy cartoons like that. I mean,
Yeah.
because that's aimed.
but I mean, there's a big
adults.
there's
But when you bring it in,
there's a big difference. I think this is what we're trying to say. There's a big difference in hentai, which is specifically drawn for the purpose of being hentai, and whether you're reading
Yes.
hentai because you're interested in that genre of manga, or you're reading hentai because you there's a form of sexual gratification from it. That is that's adult material for adults. And I think this is what Wayne was saying. I know this sounds all. It goes back to what Mark said. I know some bronies, but I have friends that watch My Little Pony. I personally don't get it. I do not get the cartoon whatsoever. But that's because I just don't get the cartoon. I don't necessarily think, why the fuck do they like this? They like it because they like it. And they can like whatever the hell they want. Like there are people that look at me when I say, well, I have this ridiculous obsession with Adventure Time, and they flat out don't get it, and
ridiculous,
they think it's weird then that I've cried over episodes, and they're like, oh, it's a fucking kids cartoon, Declan, get the fuck over it. Like, well, like I'm able to take as an adult, you are able to take something deeper from it, but I think again, there's it goes back to it. There's a difference with Adventure Time, and there's a big difference between Adventure Time and My Little Pony. As in, Wayne has said,
Adventure Time has got a lot of actual solid messages in it, though. And I've watched Adventure. I'm a massive Adventure Time fan, and I've sat here, and my wife has said, "How do you like this show? What's about it?" Especially that from ArcadeCon last year after meeting Penn Ward, and I came home and Irene was actually watching episodes of Adventure Time when I got home from ArcadeCon last year, and she was watching it about 3 or 4 episodes, and she goes, "This is actually a very good cartoon because it gives really good life lessons to people who watch it." Now, I've never ever once watched an episode of Friendship is that what it's called? Friendship is Magic?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never ever once watched an episode of it, but from the look of it and from the stuff and from the actual the look and the design of the cartoon to the shit that I've seen on Tumblr, to go from that leap, like even though I haven't seen an episode of it, there's in my mind there's something that clicks and goes, right, that type of a leap from something that looks like the way that does to what I'm looking at now and shouldn't really be looking at is wrong in my mind, because that looks like something that is marketed for kids with the colors, the design, the way it's laid out, to the shit that I see on Tumblr and in the internet when the safe search is turned off, when you're just browsing and all of a sudden this shit pops up on your feed and you're like, what the hell am I looking at? Why does this exist?
it's also so badly somewhat advertised, because I mean, not it's just falsely advertised, because you go onto Tumblr and you see a page and it's advertised as just a fan page, but when you go on it, you're like, whoa,
It's an adult fan page.
penis and tits and stuff.
Bad worded. Yeah. But no, it's. I mean, I don't like. I don't want to take. I don't like. Like I said, I don't have an issue with the Brony fandom whatsoever, and I would like to point out that as a fandom, the Bronies have done a serious amount of charity work, and they've raised millions for various groups, and they've actively no, because there is. I mean, with every fandom, there are obviously as we've been discussing, there are some fantastic people involved in people who love these shows and love whatever, and then obviously there's a darker side to fandom, be it the harsh critics or the moaners or the sexualization or shipping, we'll say, the shipping side of.
And I don't mean to generalize. I don't mean to generalize anyone that's a fan of the show. I don't mean to do that in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying what I've seen and my lack of knowledge of the show, what it stands for, and like I do know a few people who are into it as well, and they're perfectly great people. They're fine, and like you said, if they've done great work for charity, that's great. Just there's this weird seesaw thing that I've seen where it goes from one thing to another, from one extreme to another, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, how could you go from there to there in such a small jump? Like, you know.
Is there a thing that maybe it might be worth, not banning this stuff or getting puritanical about it, but finding a way of at least separating it out in that sense, so you don't end up having, something
that
the
tags are for, but no one really
Google
uses
plugin filters really is probably the way to go.
Yeah.
But should we have to? That's the other side. Why should that be there in the first place? Because I mean, it harks back to what you're saying. This is these are shows aimed at kids, be it Adventure Time or be it My Little Pony, be it, because I mean, let's be honest, the X-Men cartoons, we all still harp on about them on the 90s version. We still harp on about those, and like nowhere will you see I mean, for the love of God, the costumes even in that cartoon series were in some cases pretty tight and buzzy. Like you know what I mean? As kids don't. We didn't see it as kids. Like you know what I mean? Oh. As an adult, you probably were going, whoa. I mean, but I mean,
I remember seeing that the first time around.
Yeah, this show's amazing on a whole new level.
Did Emma Frost ever show up in the old series? I'm rewatching it at the minute. I'm about halfway through, but she hasn't popped up yet.
They did an episode about the Hellfire Club, and she was in it.
She plays the White Queen in it, and she gets ousted by Jean later on.
Oh yeah, that's pretty early on. Like I don't remember her being in that at all.
She's wearing the fur-lined belly top with a cape because it was the early 90s, because that was the fashion.
Yeah, actually, I do remember
that in the comics, like say 2-3 years ago. It wasn't to the case of it was like I'm Emma Frost and I'm Frost because I wear very little clothes and I'm very, very cold. It was a case of she's just white and she's the White Queen. But I think from maybe in my mind, summing it up, the X-Men cartoon in particular was when you're a kid, it's like pew 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 pew, Sentinels exploding, and then it gets older, it's like holy cow, look at Jean Grey's really tight clothing, it's mad. Or Rogue, she's kind of sexy even though she's a cartoon. But that's my personal view of it. I mean, some other people might go, Logan's got some buns on him. It depends on what way you look at it. But
you're only aware of it in hindsight.
I was more of a Beatles fan, so you just shut your face about your Logan.
Oh my gay stars and garters.
An actual bear.
Ship it, Declan and Beast.
I ship it. But no, I mean, like,
ban this sick filth.
Don't Google search that. Don't Google. I mean, as growing up after watching X-Men now, we're able to take something more from it, and the correlation between the mutants and the underrepresented or minorities within our own society. That's what we're drawing. We're able to draw that now, but as children we didn't get that. Now, I mean, there were shows when we were growing up, Captain Planet, Gem, that had all these. James Bond Jr. I think had one as well. G.I. Joe, at the very end of it there was the, hey kids, if you cut your finger, don't go in the water or a shark will eat you. message. You know what I mean? But,
Oh my god, I remember the Sonic cartoon show was fucking horrendous for those. They were uncomfortable to watch.
They had that, and I mean,
The Mario show was worse.
well, that was worse for a whole.
That's because Mario show
Sonic
had
was worse
that big alcoholic, filthy, real life plumber dude with the long, greasy hair telling you the story at the end, like the human representation of Mario.
I'm pretty sure
he wasn't the cartoon. It wasn't like, hey, let's take children, don't play with the strangers. It was some crazy, big, greasy, whoppy dude going, hey, don't play with strangers. I gotta screw you. It's like, that's how bad it was.
one of the first episodes of that, I
Oh
think
my
David,
God.
they have either some sort of Olympic athlete, this young kind of 17, 18-year-old gymnast or figure skater or something like that, and for some reason she's at the Mario Brothers plumbing company, and they spray her with water.
Getting their
Yeah,
pipes
oh jeez. And you're kind of going, how the fuck was this allowed on TV? Like, were there no grown-ups around when this was being made, and kind of going, well, maybe this is inappropriate now. But that's what we grew up with. You know, we grew up with the message at the end, in case you didn't get it in the episode, this is what we actually meant to say. There was an episode of Captain Planet about HIV and AIDS. And then next week they were fighting shark baiters, and there was the message at the end of that was, if you get a cut and you're going swimming, put a bandage on, or you'll get eaten by a shark. Because I mean,
Which is false advertising, really, depending on where you are.
you never know. Basking sharks have been known to possibly in some fan fiction eat people.
Yeah, maybe.
There's dogfish in Ireland, like sharks.
Although there was a case in Scotland a couple of years ago. This guy came home drunk, and he fell into he tried to get home. He fell into the sea, completely plastered, and he washed up the next day. But he had some pieces of him missing. But next day, shark washes up on the beach because it had been in the bay. And it turns out that the guy's alcohol blood content was so high that the shark had died of alcohol poisoning. Which is fantastic, because Scotty got his revenge, which I thought was fantastic when I heard about it.
And no one suspected a thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so is
sharks in the water, man was in the water, a drunk man, sharks fucked.
Yeah, absolutely. You got nothing on me, pal. Acute alcohol poisoning.
Is there
When did Ross get here?
It was probably Ross. Is there? I suppose we might as well try wrap this up, because I actually, at this point of the podcast an hour ago, I was like, oh my god, we're not gonna be able to make a show out of this. Turns out we can, especially when I've been drinking Bulmers. Is there anything?
I won't lie.
Yeah,
I've had a
there
few.
you go. Yeah.
I've had a few.
Is there anything? I suppose. Is there does anyone have any final words that they want to throw in about fandoms or?
Yeah, I think no one should listen to Wayne because he's cis-het scum.
Yeah. White privilege cis scum, man.
I am a white knight, apparently. That's what I am. I'm a white knight. That's all I want to be.
I don't actually get it. I just why is it a bad thing to talk about social issues? What is it?
Well, it's not.
But it is.
I don't know.
Talking about them on the internet. No, because yes, there are people who take everything to the extremes, but for those of us,
It's bad to talk about the internet.
It's not a bad
bad
thing,
for
it's
people
just-
to see the internet.
for those of us that like to live in the middle ground and only dabble on the
Yeah.
fringes, I think the internet is a great place. But if you find yourself getting lost and you wander into shitstorm territory, it's probably best to pull a Yui and just come straight back out, because literally the internet, when it gets to the shitstorm mode, it's literally just people shouting and throwing crap at each other.
Yeah.
I think that
In that sense, I mean, it is a kind of a bit of a wild west as it currently exists, and that is both it's what's great about it and what's bad about it. It allows everyone to essentially put their opinion out there, and it's all essentially of equal value. But unfortunately, it does come with folks who
Get
have
killed in a million ways.
I wasn't going to go for that, but yeah, sure. Although I haven't seen that film, so I'm not sure where to stand on that. But yeah, go right ahead.
Movie, so don't go see it.
I feel like we should finish this episode with a public services announcement or something. It's like, remember, kids, if you put your opinion on the internet, people will throw shit at you.
Absolutely.
Go, Joe. I mean, I think if you're looking for, if fandoms are concerned, if you're a fan of something and you want somebody else, and you meet somebody else who's a fan of something, and they may have different opinions to yours, don't fucking lambast them for it. Don't try and change their opinion based on your own. Fucking welcome the fact that you found somebody who's into the same shit you're into.
Sure.
Because in this day and age, the world is full of assholes, and because of the internet, they're a lot closer than you think. And just be happy that you found someone that likes you like. And just take it from there. Fucking hell, I mean, that's the problem with the internet, though. It has given assholes a voice, and it has brought a lot of the fans together. And there are a fuck ton of pricks out there who feel like they need to ruin your day by enforcing their opinion on yours until you change your mind. And just don't let them.
Fight those Nazis.
I think it depends largely on where you go looking for them. Like I've seen very little hate on, say, like the PBS Idea channel videos. Like a lot of that's really constructive conversation. Whereas you go on a clip of Doctor Who or wherever, it's Moffat's shit or Moffat's good or Moffat's whatever, Russell's whatever, etc., ad infinitum. I think it depends on where you go to see these things. I mean, Tumblr's pretty rife with it. Imgur pretty, or Imager, or whatever the fuck way you want to pronounce it, is pretty bad for it. 4chan has always been pretty fucking bad for it. But other places aren't really that bad for it at all. I think it depends on where you're looking for it.
I'm relatively new to the internet, so I'm still getting used to all of this. I'm still meeting.
You're clean.
Yeah.
Quick, someone absorb his life.
The rest of us, we've seen some shit. I saw something about 7 years ago that will scar me forever. Actually, no, definitely not 7 years ago. Maybe 6 years ago.
Kieran wasn't born, so.
Do share.
Let's just say it involved Calvin and Hobbes, and no fanfiction will ever scar me.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, that right there is the wrong kind of fanfiction. Anything that takes Calvin and Hobbes and makes it wrong needs to be burnt and kicked into the sun.
Kicked into the sun.
Kicked into the fucking sun.
That should be a new form of reprimand on the arcade commenters.
Kicked into.
Any haters will be kicked into the sun.
Well, they've just started, so let's not threaten them with it.
No, we did not.
We just got the commenting system going.
Okay. Fire at will, commenters.
But if you do piss Jack off, he will kick you into the sun.
I'll give it a good college try.
Right. On that note of violence, I think we'll leave it there.
Okay.
I just want to say thanks to again Kieran, Wayne, Marcus, and Jack for joining us for a lively and somewhat un-PC discussion of fandoms. The best kind of discussions. Now, if you have an opinion on this podcast, please walk away from your keyboard and scream it into the night air.
Or I will kick you into the sun.
Remember, kids, it's okay to not like things, but don't be a dick about it.
Thanks, Captain Marcus. And now a word from our sponsors, ArcadeCon. Right, guys, we'll leave it there. And thanks so much for... Jesus Christ, if you listened to this far, God help you. We'll hopefully you'll be back for the next episode. Bye,
Okay, wonderful.